And if you don't know already, we're going to be painting the spring truck. I think you can see that right there. And you can also see it in this corner right here. A few things about us. We've been around for about 6 years now. We started out doing, obviously, big public parties and painting and doing private parties as well. And since new turn of events, we've a little bit of live things too. So if you did purchase one of our art kits to go, it would have included brushes if you asked for it. If you asked for used brushes, you got a big filbert and a little round, as far as I know. And then I know some of you who are painting with me today also ordered new brushes, so you have this pack as well. I'm going to be demonstrating a little bit with both, so you both know what you're using. But if you didn't get the new brushes, I promise you can do this whole painting with just these two. And then, if you didn't happen to order one of our art kits, the paints that we're going to be using today are black, white, warm yellow, burnt umber, deep green, and cobalt blue. If you don't happen to have those paints and you didn't order a to-go kit, that is fine. Just paint with what you have. I'm sure you'll make it work. Let's see. Before we get started, we're just going to make sure that people are tuning in. So if you've happened to tune in already and you're watching me right now, feel free to say hi. I'll say hi back. Just let me know if you're here, and I will be able to see. All right, here I am. I'm going to get into the comments section so I can see you guys. All right, I believe Nancy should be here. All right, hi Nancy. Oh, we have 2 Nancys. Okay, hi both of you. All right, we got Patsy. So we got 3 so far. Welcome. As we get started, if you didn't see our post from earlier, in order to paint along with me, you're going to want a cup of water, brushes, of course, paint, of course, and then if you don't already have it, get a plate. We're going to be using this as our palette to mix the paints. Of course, you're going to need a canvas to paint with. And we'll eventually switch so that you can see me painting. For now, we're just going to wait for more people to kind of tune in a little bit. Hi, Leah. Okay, we got Susan and Haley as well. Hello. Oh, and Jennifer. Hi. All right. Also, if you are painting along and you can hear me right now, I would like to know if you ordered an art kit or if you're painting along with the supplies you have. That just gives me a better idea of the supplies that you're working with, and it helps me help you out a little bit more as well. Hi, Vicki. Cool. Cool, cool. All right. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the cameras over so that you can see the overview and so that you can paint along with me. We'll get a switch of a screen here. So now you can see the canvas that we have. Your canvas, if you bought a to-go kit, should have this sketched out truck right here. If you didn't happen to get the to-go kit, go ahead and maybe take some time to sketch that out. And then you can see up here, this is what we're painting. That'll be there the whole time. You'll be able to see, oh, I'm back. Gotta push me back up here, and you'll also see this camera as well. That'll show my brushes and the side profile so you can see it a little bit better. I got my water cup. Oh, also you're gonna need a paper towel as well. That helps with cleaning the brushes. The paint that I'm working with today is acrylic paint, so we definitely use that water. It helps our brushes stay soft. It helps the paint blend a little bit better. And then I would also like to point out, anyone new? Hi Jen. Hi Christy. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and comment as I go along. I'm just going to be painting kind of at a pace that I think you guys can follow along with. And then if you feel like you need more dry time or more time with a step, go ahead and just yell it in the comments, let me know. Be like, hey, I need more time with this step, or can you explain that a little bit better? And I'll try and get to the comments as soon as I can. So just let me know. Also, before I get started, I would just like to let you guys know as well, we really like to see your finished products, so after you paint along, go ahead and take a picture of it, post it to our Facebook page. We'd love to see it. A little bit more info on where you can find some of these supplies. Our art kits, you can find them on our website. So if you go to creativelyancorked.com and then go to calendar, you can see we have 5 nights a week we're doing these lives at 7 p.m. And then you can go ahead and order it online under the calendar, or you can go to, I think there's a section that says art kits, and it'll show up all of the different options that we have for art kits. We actually just added a whole lot more, so if you've actually done the art kit before and you really liked it, we have a lot more options now as well if you want to get that checked out. Anyone new? Cool. Oh, you guys all have art kits. I love that. Fun. Okay. We'll get started here kind of shortly. All right. And then there's a few... Oh, you commented. Oh, I'm seeing the comments on the other one now. That's fun. All right. So another thing that we do is we also have memberships on Patreon. Patreon.com/Creatively Uncorked. We have different levels of memberships. One gets you like stencils. One gives you access to like different things like wood signs. If you go to the website, you can kind of see the different levels. One level comes with like instructions, just like this kit did. Because if you have the to-go kit, you probably have these instructions as well. It gives you a little bit of a rundown on what we're doing, where we're starting, and stuff like that. So if you ever find yourself stuck, or like I went a little bit too fast for you and you bought the art kit, go ahead and just kind of find where you're at in the instructions. That can get you back on track as well. Anyone new? There's Shanna. Any new comments? Cool. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to find you guys in the comments so I know where to look for you guys when you have questions. Cool. Okay. So, all right. And I'm just going to point out the paint before we get started as well. We have this burnt umber and black and the green. They're all pretty dark, so don't get them too mixed up, especially when they're on the camera. They're all going to look pretty dark, so just make sure you know which one I'm dipping into. We have this warm yellow, we got the white, and we got the blue. For the most part, we're going to be starting with the blue and the white at the beginning. And I'll kind of like put this off to the side for a little bit so we have more room. But I'll always show you the paint that I'm using. And I have another plate. If you want to get 2 plates, go for it, because I'm kind of a messy painter, so I'm going to be using both of them for mixing for sure. Another thing you can do is, if I'm moving on to the next step, and you're not quite there, the paint's not quite dry yet, you can always fan it down like this, and that'll speed up the drying process for you. We shouldn't have too many problems. Acrylic isn't that bad at drying. It's pretty fast. All right. So, the 2 of us had art kits. Cool. Hi, Erin. All right, and we got Lynn. Cool, cool. We have quite the big crowd today. This is my first like live on Facebook, so I'm excited to have it with all you guys. Cool. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna start diving into the brushes, which ones we're starting with. If you got the to-go kit with used brushes, it probably came with this filbert guy right here, or like a flat round, kind of just like this guy. He's like a 1/2 inch. We're just gonna be using him for the background. So go ahead and pull this one out. He's gonna be your first brush that you're gonna use. And then if you got the new kits, the new brushes with your kit, you have 2 brushes that will probably do the job here. We have this one. He's like the filbert, like the one that came with the used kit. And then we also have this one, except he's square, not round. They're both gonna do the trick for you. So pull out whichever one you want. All right. And then of course, however you prefer it, I'm probably going to pull the paint out on my plate so I can use it on the plate and mix it on the plate. Using it in the cups is a little bit too hard for me because you can't mix between them. You don't want to contaminate. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the white, pour some out here, and then set some of the white off to the side just so I can keep that clean and only use the white on here that's going to get mixed up with the blue. And then of course, before you kind of dive into the canvas, I'm going to go ahead and dip my brush in the water. Oh, I was going to say, so we do have 2 rules. I know one of you guys knows it. Nancy for sure has to know them. She lives by them. The first rule we have is, I'm going to see if anyone comments it. I think it's a little lagged. Have fun. So this is fun art, not fine art. So we just like to have a good experience. That leads into our second rule, which is no negativity. I know this can be a little bit hard because I'm not like with you guys in person, so I do really encourage, if you do have any questions or want me to explain anything further, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll help you. And then when we get into the details, you know, mine's not going to turn out exactly like this one. It might be a little bit different. Heck, I might even put like a bird in the sky. I don't know. But you guys are welcome to be very creative and original, and you can go on another path as we're painting too, so don't feel like you have to stick so close to what we are painting up here in the corner. Keep your brushes in the water. Yes, thank you for pointing that out. So if you're new to acrylic paints, whenever you are not using your brush, put it in the water, because this paint, it dries really fast. So if you leave your brush just kind of sitting out and you're not using it for like 5 minutes, the paint is going to dry on the bristles, and then it'll no longer be soft and smooth. So whenever you're not using your brush, put it in the water. Who said that? Thank you, Christy. All right. Hi, Jennifer. Cool. No negativity. Ah, see, Nancy knows what it's up. All right. Okay, so have fun, no negativity. I think we're ready to dive in. You guys know the rules, you know my name, all that good stuff. So, all right. So, at this point, I think all of you have put your brush in the water. Go ahead and do that. Get some white on your plate. I'm going to go ahead and throw the blue on here. The first color that we're going to start with is actually going to be blue. And you can see up in the sky right here, it goes from dark to light. So by the time we get down here where the truck is, we want the blue to be fairly white, like basically white with just a hint of blue. So I'm just going to go ahead, I have the blue, I have a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm going to start at the top corner here. Whatever corner works for you, works for you. I'm starting nice and dark up here. And if you want, our painting up here has like a little bit of a curve to it. So I might take this blue, start a little bit down, and just kind of curve it. Kind of give it that halo or vignette feel. No comments? Cool. And really, I'm just using straight blue. I'm going right at the top. I'm going back and forth. But once I have like a nice dark line up there, it's about an inch down, I'm just going to go ahead and take some blue out of my brush, maybe get some water to take it out, and go right into the white. And I'm going to go right underneath that blue and just start going back and forth. And you'll see the more you go back and forth, the more it starts to blend. You need both areas to be wet for the paint to blend really nicely. And so I'm only about 2-3 inches down on the canvas. I want to make sure I have that nice blend right here, and you can see it's basically already getting pretty white. And that's exactly what we want. Because once we get down here to the truck, we're going to be painting over the stencil a little bit, but it's mostly going to be white, so you're still going to be able to see your stencil. Paint doesn't, I'll even kind of show you here. The acrylic paint doesn't cover the stencil quite that much. You can see, you still see it a little bit under there. So that's exactly what we want when we get down there, so we can still see the truck after we're painting the background. Alright, so I'm going to mix a little bit of these two here. So I have a light blue in between, and I'm just going to continue with that light blue. You can make it a little streaky if you want. Every once in a while, if you feel like as you're going down the canvas, and you feel like it's still way too blue, like, oh my gosh, it's so blue and I'm almost to the truck, just go ahead and go back into the white, make sure you clean all of the blue out of your brush, and then dip straight into the white. You have no blue on here, and maybe just start from the bottom and work the white up into the blue. That way you're not working the blue down onto the truck. Sometimes that's a way easier approach. Do your best to kind of avoid the truck with your paint. I want to make the white so soft that I don't feel like I have to paint over onto it. And let's see, I'm going to take a look at it here. I think I might want to do a little bit more blue from the top. And it's still wet, so I can still blend some blue in there. So I'm just going to make it a little bit darker up there. And as I bring it down, bring it into the white. Just like that. And you see, I just cleaned my brush out, so I went into that dark blue, and before I touch anything down here, I'm going to make sure I get all that blue out, and then I'll attack it again. And then also, like I said, if you need me to slow down or you need more time on this sky before I move on to the next step, just let me know in the comments, and I'll go ahead and take a quick pause. We can just talk about our Wednesdays, and we'll give you all some time to get this background done before we move on. But it's best to kind of get this background done a little bit faster, because we want the paint to still be wet as we're blending, because if you take too much time and this gets dry, this is still wet, and you're trying to blend them together, that kind of ends up a little messy sometimes. We want to avoid that. And I'm just going to bring the paint all the way down to this corner here with the white, but I'm not painting onto the truck. I'm just kind of leaving him be. Heck, I might throw some paint in the window because I'm kind of picky. I want the white in the window to match the white behind it. So bring it down even to here. And the nice part is once you get that white paint down here, you can kind of mess around with a little bit of blue and just bring some streaks in without bringing it into the truck, because it's nice and wet and it'll take that color really nicely. And I'm just gonna kind of blend it out. And so far, I'm not seeing any comments that are questions, so it sounds like you guys are trucking right along. Keep your brushes. Yes, love it. If you have some free time, let me know where you're painting from. That's always kind of fun to see where you guys are at compared to where our West Fargo studio is. So yeah, and that's another thing. If you just happen to like stumble upon this live video on Facebook or YouTube and you're like, oh my gosh, who are they? What? We are Creatively Uncorked. We're in West Fargo. That's where our main studio is at. We do hold in-person events here as well. That's going to slowly trickle back, but of course we don't want to do a lot of things until it's safe. But if you want to rebook a private party that you planned on doing, let us know. We might try and trickle in and do some things on the weekends and kind of slowly bring it back. Alright. Okay. So I'm just going to let this dry, set up for a little bit. Obviously, don't worry about any of the clouds. We're going to do that like at the very end. We don't want to add the clouds in while the sky is still wet, just because it's going to be a blendy mess. We'll wait till the sky is nice and dry. We don't really have to wait for the sky to dry to start this next step. But I'm going to give you guys each some time before I move on to make sure that you have your background done. Shayla Berg just joined. Hi. Tammy. Hi, Tammy. I have all the comments on the live one on my phone, and then I see the comments on here. So some of them I might miss. Cool, cool. Fun. Alright. And if any of you have your background done, you know, go ahead and grab some snacks, get some pop or something to sip along. It's going to be a couple more hours till we're done, so we'll give it a little bit more time for this background. Cool, cool. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pop in. I'm going to start doing this bottom part. If for whatever reason you need me to pause and you're still working on the sky, let me know and I'll eventually see your comment. But this next part isn't too difficult, so shouldn't be a problem. Alright, so now we're going to move into the other paints. So I am bringing back yellow, I am bringing back green, and I'm going to bring some brown up in here. Alright, so the first thing, let's see if I have a pencil, maybe I can mark this out. Okay, so our truck, if it wasn't like sketched out or you need like a better idea of the road, we're going to make the road kind of like right here, and then the road is going to end maybe like right here. I'm just going to sketch that out so I can see it. Part of the grass is going to be going up into the white areas, so the grass looks like it's behind the truck and a little taller, comes to about like this high on the truck. So I'm just going to start from the bottom and then work up into here, and then eventually my white will be dry so I can put that green up there. And I am sticking with my filbert, so go ahead, if you have too much blue in there, go ahead and swish it out. Tap it off. Use our paper towel to get nice and clean. And again, I may pull some colors onto my plate just to give a little bit more of a cleaner start. So I'm going to take some yellow first, so I can keep the yellow clean for later. Pop some of that on there. Wipe it off a little bit. I'm going to pull some green. That should be good. Clean it out a little bit. Take some brown. Almost put the paint in the water. That would have been horrible. All right. Okay, so I am going to start with the green grass in the front. See if there's any more comments. Nope. All right. Okay. So I have yellow, and you can kind of see up here, it starts lighter and then it goes to a darker green. Don't worry about like the individual blades of grass or anything like that. We're going to add that after this first layer. I'm going to start with the yellow, of course, get some water. Just like how we did the sky, start nice and bright. And then after I get a layer of yellow on there, I'm going to slowly build into this green. Green is pretty powerful and yellow is a part of green, so I can take over the yellow really fast. So I'm going to start from the bottom and work into the yellow. This will give us kind of like a ombre background to put the blades of grass on top of. But do not worry about the blades of grass just yet. We will attack those later when we attack more details. Alright, get all the way across. If your white is still wet up here, don't worry about that just yet. My green went a little bit crazy, so I'm going to try and take some yellow and work it way back down. Got some yellow. Cool. All right. All right, I'm gonna check my white. My white is fairly dry down here. You can just check it by touching it, make sure your hands are clean when you do that. And I'm just gonna give a nice green and yellow layer up there too. Start near the truck. I'm not gonna paint in the truck. I'm just gonna give that yellow strip right there. And of course, going to the green. Kind of blend in that bottom. And again, don't worry about the blades of grass just yet. We'll get to those. All right. Give you guys some time to do that as well. If it is your first time doing an art kit, go ahead and let me know. If you've done a live video, let me know as well. We do these 5 nights a week, every day at 7 p.m. One thing I noticed that one of our artists do really fun, they do bingo on Fridays. Maddie paints on Fridays, she's a hoot. And she does bingo with like cleaning out brushes or like funny things that she says while she teaches. So that's kind of a fun thing if you wanted to tune in on Friday as well. Which green is that? Okay, so this is deep green. Deep green, and then I know if you're like familiar with our other paints, we have like phthalo green, light green. This one's just the deep guy. Any green honestly would work for this step. If you have a different preference for it, that's cool too. Alright. And then since I think everyone's trucking along really nicely, I'm going to go ahead and just go with the road. Same drill, I'm just cleaning my brush out, getting all of that green out. And I'm going to be taking the burnt umber brown. And maybe throw some yellow in him, why not? Mix it up. And I'm going to go ahead and fill out that road. And I'm going to be careful on this road part. I'm going to go around where my stencil is. We don't want to get the brown anywhere that's really nice and where those yellow parts will be. And the brown's going to feel kind of like watered out. Don't worry about that. It's going to look fairly lightish. We're going to add some darker black lowlights like underneath the truck when we're done and when the brown is dry. But for now, just get like a nice light layer of brown on there and that's all you need. Kind of like the same thing for the grass. We just want to get that first layer on there. Go around the tires. And I like to just get the paint on it and kind of perfect it later. So I'll make these lines straighter after I get it on there. Oh no! I need a mic. Alright, now I'm going to perfect it a little bit. Yeah, you can. I put the yellow in just to give it a little hue. It doesn't quite show up, but sometimes mixing colors helps out a little bit. But for the most part, I'm just using brown. Make that a little straighter. Cool, cool. No sound. Ah. All right, just kind of being a perfectionist now. All right.
Can you please pause for a minute when you're done with this step?
What?
Oh, for a minute after
yeah.
the step, someone is asking.
Oh, it's on that one. Yeah, we can take a quick break for this one.
I'm going to check the sound.
Make sure you get up and around those tires. And don't worry too much about being too perfectionist with like the green and the brown, because eventually we're going to go back and put the blades of grass, we're going to put some highlights and lowlights and all of that good stuff in there. So we will be coming back to make it look a whole lot prettier later. So come on. Cool. All right, so we're just going to take a quick break for everyone to catch up to this point. And sometimes, you know, our water is going to get kind of like muddier as we go on. If you want to take a quick break to kind of like clean out your water while you're waiting or anything like that, go ahead. The muddy water shouldn't be too big of a deal, but sometimes we're going to be painting this truck and we're going to get into like a lighter yellow, and we don't want that to like make the yellow green or anything like that. So
Laura says
hi,
hi.
Laura. Jennifer. Okay, cool. All right. And for those of you who ordered like the new pack of brushes, you have these two big guys. So if you're kind of like one of those people like, I hate washing my brush back and forth, you can kind of delegate. This is the green one. This is the brown one. And then you don't have to clean them as much or worry too much about the paints kind of mixing together. So all that good stuff. All right. Cool, cool. Oh, someone said hello. All right. And if you are done with your step and you're just kind of looking for something to do, go ahead and like unpackage the rest of your new brushes. I might pop into some of those guys later. And for those of you who are waiting for that next step, the colors that we're going to be using again are just going to be the brown. After you paint this road, we're going to go ahead and put the boards on the truck as well. Those are the same kind of technique as the road. So we do one layer of brown, and it's going to feel kind of blah, but then we're going to like make it look cool and do some lowlights and highlights with it later. So I'll let everyone make sure that they're nice and caught up. And since this stuff is just kind of like the same color, I'm going to go ahead and fill in those boards. So If you have the used brushes, you can use this guy, nice square flat, or you can use this nice pointy guy. Both will do the trick for you. Basically, any small brush is going to do it. So, and I'm using just straight up brown. And I'm going to go from the cab all the way to the back. I'm just going to try and go as straight as I can. There we go. Got one on there. And then this next board, just keep in mind, it's not like right next to the next one. We leave a little bit of a gap, so make sure you don't miss that. You can see there's like a little bit of gap between the two. And go all the way across. Doesn't take that much paint to do this step. And then, just in case you missed it, there's two little boards that we're going to throw in there as well. I think I'm just going to throw the first one in. The second one would normally go there, but I think the plant is going to cover it, so I'm just going to leave it blank. I can't leave things blank. I have to fill it in. Okay. All right, so we should have those boards on there. Again, let me know how your guys' paces are. I'm going to kind of keep going, but if for some reason you have to or you get a little bit behind, that's okay. Just let me know. All right. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit longer because I know doing those straight lines isn't fun. You kind of want to make them perfect, so. All right. If you did happen to get these instructions along with your art kit, it has all of the links on the back as well. So you can find our Facebook page, you can find our Facebook group, you can find us on Patreon where you can buy the memberships. We also have an Instagram if you want to keep up to date with us and all that good stuff. And then of course there's that link to buy more art kits. And like I said earlier, we just added a lot more art kits to our options. So if you guys want to check out any of the new ones that popped up, let us know. If you guys have a preference for what kind of live you would like to see, go ahead and leave it in the comments. We love to hear feedback. Anything else? All right, so next step. For those who have the used brushes, you can choose to use this guy, the Filbert. And those that have the new brushes, honestly, any like kind of medium-sized brush is going to do the trick. I will say, a lot of people, once we start working in the truck, they really like to go with the smallest brush they have. But the first step of this truck is just filling it in with color. We don't have to worry about details. We don't have to worry about shading. We don't have to worry about any of that yet. We just want to fill it in with like a nice yellow. So I like to use a bigger brush just because it gets the job done quicker and it dries faster so I can get into the details faster. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure this brush is nice and dry. I mean, not dry, it just doesn't have paint in it. Dry it off a little bit. Make sure it's nice and clean. And we're going to switch back, turn the tables, and we're going to take the warm yellow and mostly white, and we're going to go ahead and mix them together. And we're hoping for like a nice light lemon yellow. Kind of roughly like that. Pretty light. We want this yellow to be more so light because then when we go in with the yellow, the darker yellow for like the low lights, it's going to show up a little bit better. So I think I might make mine just a little lighter. And if there's one step where I want you guys to take time mixing your paint, it would be this step. Make sure that you get the light yellow that you want. A lot of times, and especially I'm guilty, you'll mix the color and you'll think it's light enough, but really it's still a little bit too dark. So if you think you have a nice light yellow, go ahead and make it lighter. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and start filling this guy in. I think I'm going to mix a little bit of water with it. By mixing a little bit of the water with the light yellow, we make it a little bit transparent. That way you can still see those pencil lines underneath. Just because I'm working with a camera and it's a little bit farther away from you guys, you might not be able to see those pencil lines. Just make sure when you're painting yours, mix a little bit of water with the paint to make it some more transparent so you can still see those lines. I'm going to go ahead and fill everything except for the tires. Don't worry about those guys. So the beginning of this painting really is just color blocking. We're getting color down just so we have something to put details on. And I know this step might take a little bit longer for you guys, just so that you know you want the paint where it goes, and just taking your time to make it nice and straight and stuff. I'm just kind of whipping it on there, just make sure I can still be aware of your comments and stuff like that. So, and then if you want to switch to the smaller brush, you can go ahead and switch to the smaller brush to fill in this area. I'm just going to go flat with it and fill it in that way. And the yellow on this truck is going to be done in layers. So you can obviously, this is a pretty bright yellow truck, but eventually these areas are going to get nice and dark. So you can make sure the paint is nice and even, all that good stuff. And we'll go ahead and let that dry up a little. If, for whatever reason, you're a fast painter and you're already way ahead of me, or just looking for something to do because you finished your truck and you're still kind of waiting for the next step, go ahead and, take a second piece of plates, or piece of plate, who says that? Just grab a plate and you can practice some of the tools in the truck. You can practice making vines, you can practice making the flowers. So if you ever find yourself like kind of ahead of me, go ahead and just practice. That way your details are going to look a lot better. You'll know how to do the flower before you put it on the canvas, or before I'm even kind of throwing it on there. So if you're looking for something to do. That's part of it. You paint this like pretty background and all that stuff, and then it comes to putting the details on there and you're like, I don't know how to paint a vine. So sometimes it's nice to practice it before. All right. And if you're watching this video at a later time, you can obviously pause or skip ahead as you like. But all right, so I'm going to move on to the next step just because it doesn't seem like anyone's waiting or anything like that. Let me know if you are. I'm going to go ahead and throw these tires on there. So whatever brush you have, the smaller it is, the better. I'm just going to go ahead and grab that black that's been sitting patiently waiting to be used, and dip that guy in there. I just like to get everything filled in and then do the details. All right, so I'm going to start with this. I'm going to be very careful going around. Black is a hard color to go back and fix the mistake of, so go ahead and take your time with this step. Make sure those tires are nice and round how you like them. Depending on how you guys are painting, some of you may be painting with it upright like this on like an easel. If you find it hard to keep a steady hand, I find it easier if you like lay it flat on a table. That way you have more control over your brush, and then you can go ahead and put it back on your easel. And leave a nice little circle in there for the gray for later. If anyone purchased an art kit to celebrate anything, let me know. That's always fun to know. had a family buy a couple because it was their daughter's birthday and they didn't want her to sit at home and be bored or anything like that. So they all bought art kits for each other. I thought that was kind of cute. Alright. And I'm not going to worry about filling those guys in with the silver yet. We'll just do that later when the black is dry. Alright. And then when you're done putting those black tires on there, just make sure you wash that black out of your brush, because we're going to be using this guy again. After those tires, we're going to be attacking the grass area, because I think these two areas for everyone should be dry by now. All right. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone's too far behind, so all right, so I'm going to go into the grass, and for the grass, I use a mix of the white, of the yellow, and of the green. Okay, so you can see it a little bit better here. And I think I'll start with the dark green. I'm using the smallest brush I have for those blades of grass. And I'm going to start from the bottom. So I'm just going to start flipping up. Sometimes using a little bit of water in that brush will help it go a little smoother. And not all of your blades of grass have to look the same or go in the same direction. They can kind of be different. It's probably best if they're a little different. And like in layers, I'm starting with this dark green. I'm going to make a few different variations of light green and light yellow and stuff like that to mix in as well. But I just want to get this base on there first. And of course, I'm going to go up here as well. I'm going to be a little bit more careful with the ones up here. Now I'm going to mix that dark green on my brush, and I think I'm going to make like a lighter yellow. So I'm going to mix some white, some yellow, throw it around on here. It's okay to make your palette pretty messy. It's usually good. Different greens and yellows together. It's perfect. And I'm going to kind of go on top of those darker green ones and throw some light yellow in there as well. Maybe just some select areas. And you can always go back in and mess around. A lot of my brush strokes right away, they're a little bit thicker, but I'm going to go back and be a little bit more precise with some like smaller blades later on. I just want to get some variations in there first. Oh yeah, I can kind of keep slowing. I'll go for a long time on the grass, don't worry, I'll let you catch up with the grass. For the most part with the grass, I'm just going in with greens and doing lines up and down. So, and if you have like even a smaller brush, go ahead and use that. I might go in with some dark green again. If you feel like your green isn't dark enough, you can even throw a pile of black and green together and you might get like a darker green. I'm not going to do too much of the darker green. Just a little bit. Oh, yeah, I can slow down. I'll kind of go a little slower here. I also think for the people in live, there's a little bit of a lag, so it may take me like 30 seconds or 40 seconds to see your comment for me to slow down. So I may have just like kind of kept going after you asked as well, so I'll just kind of play around with these blades up here. For, who's that? Robin, who just commented to like rewind a little bit. The one downside to lives is like you can't go back. If you guys are still kind of on the black part of the tires, go ahead and take your time with those. Yeah, I'll just stick to the grass, and you guys can kind of catch up. All we did was we filled in the truck with some yellow, make sure your black tires are filled in, and we're just going to play around with the grass for a while as people can kind of catch up. And like Creatively Uncorked just commented, after this painting, it'll be on our page for a little bit, so after you're done with it, you can go back and rewatch it and fix up some of your details if you would like to. So, oh no. Don't be like me, I wasn't even thinking. I had black on my brush and just like threw it on there. We'll fix that later. Oh, Nancy said she can pause us. Huh.
Well, good.
Glad.
But then when she pushes play again, does it play?
I wonder if
where
it's
she
behind.
I'll ask her.
Alright. I'm going to take some time before I play with that grass a little bit too more. So I'm just going to kind of keep playing with this grass. Again, if you're still kind of working with the grass, depending on where you are, I like to jump around with different variations of the green and yellow. So I think I'm going to go into like a lighter yellow. And mess around a little bit up here. Even mixing some green and yellow together. Make like a lighter one. Right now I'm just mixing a light green, so I have white, yellow, and green to make like more of a mint green. Eventually I will fix that black one, but I'm gonna wait for him to be dry. So I'm just kind of using this like light green as like a filler just to kind of throw in there. Then I might go a little bit more detailed and if anyone has a free moment, go ahead and if you can, like, update me on where you are with the grass, if you're ready to maybe move on, if you need more time still, anything like that. Cool. I'll give it a few seconds to see if anyone reaches out about more time. All right, sweet, cool. Thanks for letting me know, Jen. Sweet, sweet. Thanks, Robin and Erin, for letting me know. It's easier to work flat anyway. Which painting's on the calendar for tomorrow?
Let's find out.
Woohoo!
Tomorrow is Simplicity Sunflower.
All right, cool.
Post a link to that.
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to go live again at 7 p.m. We're going to be painting Simplicity Sunflower. From my memory, I'm pretty sure that's like a nice little sunflower with a maroon background and all that good stuff. So,
Order by 4. You can pick up your kit by 6.
Yes.
Paint at 7.
Yes, if you order by 4 o'clock tomorrow, you can pick up your kit by 6 p.m. tomorrow, and you'll be able to paint with us by tomorrow night as well. So if that interests you, go ahead and check it out. You can order the kits on our website. And there's a link in the comments. So, cool, cool. All right, I'm going to keep playing around with my grass. And the grass is something where we can kind of always come back to it, especially if you feel like at the end of the painting you want to add more details to it. You can definitely do that. Let's see, no more new comments. Question. For the lighter grass, you mixed green and yellow or green and white. For the lighter grass, like the light mint green, I mixed the green, I mixed the yellow, and the white. So the green, yellow, and white will make this like more minty color. It shows up kind of like a little greener on my plate, but it shows up a little bit more minty once it's on top of the other green. So I'm just taking a little bit of the green, kind of like equal parts from each color, and I mix it together, and it'll make like a nice mint green. Yeah, Nancy just commented, I'm stopping our grass or I overkill. At some point, I might make us move on with the grass because even like me, if you keep painting on top of those details, you might go a little bit too far and then it kind of gets busy. Sometimes it is good to take a break on a step and then go back and work on it later, just because once you work on a step for so long, you kind of get sick of it, especially like individual blades of grass. So yeah, just let me know. Cactuses, oh. When we get to the flowers, you can put the flowers on the cactus as well, so cool. All right, just because I want to keep trucking along, and I obviously, like Nancy said, I don't want you guys to overkill your grass. I'm going to move on to the next step. It's going to be fairly simple. I'm still using this small brush. We'll eventually get back to the truck here, but we'll wait a little bit. Underneath these tires, we want the road to look a little bit more darker with some shadow. Oh, Erin's ready. Cool. So for the road, I may just go ahead and take my small brush. I think I'm going to switch to the longer one. I might take some brown. I may just kind of like re-wet it in some areas. You don't really have to do this, but I kind of like to re-wet my areas before I paint on them again. And I'm going to be very, very diligent with the black. Black is very powerful. It can overkill. It can turn your whole road black if you're not too careful. You don't want to overkill this step. So I just take a little bit of black on my brush. Just a little bit. I kind of rub it off on the plate as well. So you can see I don't have a lot of black. Just kind of, I'm not globbing it on there. And I'm just going to go back and forth. Nice, like, thin lines. Well, actually, I'll show you on the plate. It's kind of hard to see on the dark brown on the camera. So I'm just going to take it and go back and forth like that. And that will be on top of the brown, just to make it look a little bit darker. All right, and more so like under the tires and under where the truck is. It starts to get lighter again as it goes out to the side of the canvas. So don't overkill the black. But a little bit goes a long way and makes it look really nice. And this step shouldn't take too long. There's one thing I always like to say. So the brush can sense your fear, especially when we're doing like line work or grass work or just kind of going back and forth or making like small details. The brush is gonna know if you're like scared. So if you're being like timid with the brush and you kind of want to go slow with that line and sometimes it doesn't quite, I need more paint. Sometimes you go a little bit slow with it and the line might end up a little bit more like hesitant and shaky. But if you just go with it, be bold, you're going to get a nice straight line like that. So be bold, don't let the brush like sense your fear. Especially, I mean, if it's your first time painting or you don't paint too much, it's kind of scary at first, but just go with it. Be confident. Yes, the brush knows if you are scared. All right, so you can see I have enough black down there. I didn't go too crazy with it. If you didn't get enough on there right away, again, this is another step that we can always go back to. Or if you're done and you're like, oh, I want to fix it up more, you can do it after the painting is done as well. All right, so I'm still using this small brush, and we're just going to kind of keep building up these details. So I'm going to go in the water. I'm going to clean it out, make sure I don't have any black in it, and then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to mix a gray. Yes, Nancy says, it's fun art, not fine art. All right, so I'm going to take my white, and at this point I need some more on my canvas already. And I'm going to take a little bit of black, mostly white, and we'll mix a gray. Make sure the gray is nice and light. Just like when we're making this yellow, a lot of people think they mix the gray and it's light enough, but it's still probably too dark by the time you put it on the canvas. So if you think your gray is light enough, go ahead, take more white, add more white into it. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in those circles with the gray. It might not show up too well on the camera because it's far away. And this is the part, you know, if you mess up on the circle on the inside, that's fine because black is pretty powerful. You can always take the black brush and clean up that circle again. So I'm just going to fill that in. And the one detail I always forget, especially because we have 3 other trucks like this. We have a summer truck, fall truck, winter truck, all that good stuff. The first one we did with this was the red guy. I always forget this hubcap right there, and I always paint it red, and I forget. But there is a nice little silver hubcap back here. I don't know if it's called a hubcap. Feel free, it's a bumper. I don't know if there's a special term other than that. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. So I'm just going to paint that silver as well. We'll eventually add some more details to give that more dimension, but for now, that's all we got to do. And then that was quite a few details, so I'm going to give you guys a second to kind of catch up with that. Bumper, yeah. Which part is the hubcap? Is that like over the tire, or is that?
Yeah, that's not over the wheel.
Over the wheel, yep. Cool, cool, cool. All right, and at this point, you guys have been painting for an hour already. That is pretty cool. We're getting pretty close to getting into the details, which is the fun part in my opinion. So. All right, as you're waiting, or as if you're done with like the grass or the silver, another thing that we do is in these brown bars up here, we're also going to be adding a mixture of like silver and black just to make the wood a little bit more detailed and wood looking. So if you can, go ahead and grab the smallest brush you have. If you don't have too small of a brush, or your brush isn't like working too well for you, you may have too much paint on it. Yes, details, I love the details. One thing and one trick that I know works well, if you have your small brush, a lot of people dip into the paint and then they go right to the canvas. And that kind of makes it so the paint is like globbed on there. And you don't want that. So what you want to do is dip it into the paint, and then I just like to swirl it around a little bit. Make some X's and stuff. And that way the paint is like in the brush and not globbed on it, and it allows you to have more control with your first brush stroke. Instead of when you glob it on and go on, then that's a little too thick. And especially with these smaller brushes, the less paint on them, the better, and the better your details are going to be. So I am just grabbing the smallest brush I have, and like I did in the road, I might just take some brown and re-wet the wood part. And the wood part, the first layer we have is pretty light, so putting that second layer of brown on there is kind of starting to do wood detail anyway. So all I'm going to do is I kind of put some brown on there, and instead of going straight with the black, I'm going to mix some black with brown to get like kind of a brown black. And I'm just going to pick and choose where I want to put that to make it darker in some areas. And I know with this camera, depending if you're like watching with a phone, it might be too small for you to quite see those details right there. But especially if you were to look up this image again on your phone or on your website, can't like zoom it in for you, you'll be able to see closer what those details look like in that image. So if you need to like go somewhere and zoom in on it, that can be helpful. But for the most part, I'm just adding black and brown right now. I'm going to take some of that silver that I mixed, mix that in with some of the brown, and paint some of that on there, nice and silver. Wonder if I can zoom it. We're going to try zooming. That might help you see it a little clearer now. Got a little closer. So now I'm going to make like a kind of a lighter brown. I'm mixing brown, black, and white. Brown, black, and white. And I get kind of like this driftwood brown, a lighter brown. And I'm going to throw some of him on there. Just kind of lightening it up. Heck, I might even go in with like some straight white. I can always dumb it down. Now I'm going to go back in with some brown. I'm basically going back and forth with brown, white, and black, switching back and forth, and just kind of keep painting on there until it kind of gets more of a woody look to it. And for some of you, honestly, if you want to give this a try, once you get some paint on there, you can take like a pencil tip and just kind of scratch around. That might add some cool like lines or texture in the paint and stuff like that, so you can give that a try if you want. I want to let you guys catch up with this part for a little bit before I move on as well. All right, so I'm gonna start to zoom out again, just so you can see the whole scene for a little bit here. Bring in that side view, and I am back. All right. Again, I always like to know where you are. If you feel like you're ready to move on, go ahead and give me a comment saying you're ready to move on. I believe in our next step, I think we're going to start working back into that truck. I'm debating whether we want to do details of the truck first, but I think tackling the truck will be good. All right. For those of you waiting for the next step or kind of ready for it, I'm going to go into like a medium-sized brush. For those of you who got the used brushes, this small fine-tipped one will be good for doing these details, or if you bought the new brushes, this medium-sized like square one, he'll do great too. Either one, as long as it's small. For this step, using a brush like this big, like the Filbert, probably isn't going to work the best. You want to go with something a little bit more smaller. But for those of you who are ready, with this truck that we painted yellow, oh no, I got water on there. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and refine that light yellow that we had, and I may have to switch plates because that one got messy. So I'm going to take some yellow again, because we're just going to focus on these colors for now. Put that on my plate. Take some white. Put that on my plate. And go ahead and, if it dried up, go ahead and find that light yellow that you had again. And sometimes when it dries up, you can find it on your canvas and compare it to make sure it's like the same tint, but I think you'll know. So I have this light yellow, and all I'm going to do is just kind of give a second layer of it on here. So I'm just going to wet the truck up a little bit. So I'm taking some water in that light yellow, and I'm just going to kind of re-wet it. So I'm very transparent. This is light yellow mixed with quite a bit of water, and I'm just re-wetting the truck area. You don't have to be too perfectionistic with this. I'm really just trying to get it damped down so that the shadows and highlights have a better, wetter area to blend on, because if the paint is dry, it's not going to blend. Or it's going to look a little too stark. We don't want that. So I'm just re-wetting the truck area with that same light yellow that I had. If you're going too fast, you might get some yellow on your road, but we can repaint over that. You can always fix up the road again later. So like I said, I'm just doing that same mixture of yellow. I'm re-wetting the truck area. You should still be able to see those stencil marks underneath where your truck is. And if you don't, that's okay. If your yellow paint was a little too thick and you can't quite see them, it's pretty easy to map out. I'm going to start with the easiest map out point for this, if you didn't have a stenciled truck. All right, I think I'm ready. Yeah, I think you guys are ready. Okay, we are diving in. So we have this whole thing. It's covered in that lighter yellow, and you can see in this top corner here, we have the original truck. So we start to get darker yellow around where these hubcaps are, and then we kind of map out where the door is. And that's what I like to do first with the darker yellow. So I'm not using any light yellow. I'm just using the regular old warm yellow we got. And first, I just like to map out the areas where the darker areas are going to be. So I know there's a line down here. It's darker there. And it's also going to be darker, a nice line across. And for this step, it may feel like I'm going to get ahead of you. For the most part, I'm just going to try and get this truck mapped out, and then I'm going to make sure everyone has ample time to do all the blending. I just want to make sure everyone can kind of see where I'm mapping out. So I basically made a straight down mark from where the wood is. I'm doing straight across, leaving a little bit of an area for a highlight later on. And then I'm going to map out the bottom of the door. So we just got two nice lines going on. I may take this darker yellow, map out the window So I'm just doing like 2 little lines. Might kind of go up here a little bit as well. Just kind of mapping out the window. And putting these lines in right away are really going to help us see where we want to go lighter with the truck and where we want to go darker. Gives us an idea of where we need to attack. And especially the hubcaps, so making sure you have a nice dark yellow line around where the hubcap is. Make that pop out. And then of course the hood and this hubcap go dark all the way around as well. And we're first going to go dark with this dark yellow, especially with the hood and right here. But then after we do all that shadows, the fun part is adding the highlights to the truck because that really makes it pop and feel more 3D. All right. And for those of you, and I know there's some of you who have done the trucks before, you guys are going to have a breath of relief because mixing yellow and white is way easier than doing the red truck. It's still doable, but I prefer mixing yellow. So, all right. And again, if you have any troubles with this step, just let me know. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time to map this out before I go in and explaining some more. And it's already starting to come together a little bit. All right. Cool. So, and again, let me know if I'm getting a little bit ahead of where you guys are mapping out. I will explain everything again if you feel like you need it. So the dark part that I'm going to start with, we have this all mapped out. And we're going to start with the hood. That's the area I like to start with the most. And you can even see, I'll make this a little bit bigger maybe so I can just show you guys for a second. Ah, I wonder where the button is. Okay. Oh, does it not do it? Oh, it's going to be lagged. Okay. So this truck, you can see, I'm going to point. The hood is a little bit brighter on the top, and it's going to be darker where the hubcap is. So it's always going to have, it's kind of like the light is coming from this way. So this part is always going to be fairly bright, but then the dark area is going to be where this hubcap is, and especially where this one is as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that smaller. If I can. I'll let you guys keep mapping out some things. And it doesn't sound like I'm moving too fast. I haven't seen any comments. So I'm going to start with this hood right here. And again, I'm using that medium-sized brush, and I'm just going to start blending a little bit. And your yellow paint should still be kind of wet so that it blends nicely. And I'm just going to keep working this way. And you can see that's starting to get nice and darker yellow. So that's getting nice and dark. I'm going to do the same thing above the other hubcap. Make it a little darker around it. So I'm making it dark pretty much all the way around this hubcap. It's going to feel weird for a little bit, but once we take some white and blend in some highlights, it's going to look really nice. Alright, so I'm making those areas darker. I might even go over what I already painted in some areas and make this area dark again more. And I'm going to let you guys catch up to that point, making those areas a little bit darker. Fenders. There we go. All right. So I'm going to introduce the white. Don't feel bad if you aren't done with the darker colors just yet, because you can go back and forth between the two. Even if you don't feel like you're done with the darker colors, sometimes adding in those highlights makes you realize where you need to go a little bit darker. So I kind of like to do both at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and go with mostly white. I'm going to make a whole nother yellow that is basically all white and just like a tad yellow, not a lot of yellow. So it is very light over here, very, very light, lighter than the yellow I started with. If it isn't lighter than the yellow you started with, it's not really going to show up as a highlight. And the first things that I like to highlight are the hubcaps, just to make those a little bit brighter. It's a little white at the moment, but we're going to take that yellow and bring it down a little bit afterwards. I just really like to map out where I'm darker and lighter so I have an idea. I'm going to go a little bit lighter up here. And of course on the hood. And maybe I'll just kind of like wisp it out and blend it. Fenders. And you can already start to see it's starting to feel a little bit more 3D, a little bit more popping. This highlight right here is pretty important too. It goes all the way across underneath the wood. So I'm just going to go ahead and go straight across with that highlight, make it pop a little more. And again, just kind of take your time mapping out where these highlights are. And eventually we're going to go back in with a medium yellow and just kind of make it all look a little more natural. I'm going to kind of fix up the bottom here, especially because where we were painting with this brown road, you kind of get lost with the nice sharpness of the hub fenders at the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my brush and kind of fix that up and make it nice and round, so that I can see that it's a nice clean line down there. Cool, cool, cool. I know all of you guys are really excited for the clouds. A lot of people get scared of clouds, but it's okay. We're going to make them really easy. All right. So at this point, I think most of you should have it mapped out. You have your highlights kind of mapped out where you would like them. Again, let me know if I'm going a little fast. But I'm going to go ahead and mix that same like mid-tone yellow again. So I'm going back to my base color, the base yellow that I started with, that nice light yellow. That's kind of like a lemon. And I might just kind of start blending it out again. Well, it's kind of hard to see. So this is dark, this was very light, so what I do is I go in between them and I blend it. Sometimes it gets a little too hard, or if you use too much paint, you can always go back to that dark yellow and work it back in. So really you're going back and forth with like the lighter and the dark until it has like a nice kind of like softer transition. And then sometimes you lose that like lighter color and go ahead and bring that highlight back. So at this point, yep, I can keep slowing down. At this point, really, if you have the dark mapped out and the light mapped out, you just go back and forth between the two colors and we do blending, kind of just like how we started at the sky. So we went from like dark blue all the way to white. It's like that nice gradient, except you're going to do it on a smaller level. So you're going to go from like a dark to a light on the other side of the door. And then you're just going to kind of keep aware of where those highlights are. I might kind of darken that a little bit. A good rule of thumb to have is just when you're painting your truck, make sure you have 3 tones. So you have the dark tone, the mid-tone, and dark tone, mid-tone, and the light tone. So you want a shadow, a highlight, and the normal yellow. As long as you're sticking to those 3 yellows, you should have a nice like 3D figure. Sometimes they get a little bit meshed up, and if you overdid it, your whole truck may turn into one yellow. And that's okay because you can kind of keep adding highlights and pushing them back and forth a little bit as you go. So if you feel like you lost your shadows or you lost your highlights, in the act, it's okay. You can always bring them back. So I'm going to keep letting everyone catch up. I'm just going to go back to that same first step and maybe just kind of map out again where I have all those darker areas. And if some of you maybe kind of already have the truck done or you're working on it, and you're like, oh, I like my truck right now. I'm still going to give some people some time to finish up their truck. But if you want to go back and you want to work on the grass, if you want to work on the road, if you want to fix up your tires, this is a good time to kind of like flip around and just kind of fix the details that you want to fix up. So I'm just going to go ahead and back and maybe fix up my tire while I'm waiting for people to kind of get their truck all nice and shaded. The truck is obviously like the most important part of the painting, so you definitely want to get some time put into that part, so it's a good thing. All right. And again, just kind of like let me know where you're at. I'm going to go back into my truck and start blending a little bit more. I want to use that mid-tone yellow and just kind of maybe put some more highlights in or blend it out. And a big thing that helps is like, especially if you're watching this on a laptop and you have your phone ready, it's easy if you want to bring this picture up on our website and like zoom in on that truck to see where those like nice highlights are. If not, we really do have this like photo up in the corner. You can kind of compare yours to that photo as well. I think I want some more white highlights. I see a highlight I'm missing, which is by the door. Nice white highlight there. I'm just going to blend it out a little bit. Ooh, another one I'm missing is the one underneath the door. Aha. I'm going to bring that highlight back up in here. Maybe take some like darker yellow again, bring back some darkness. Play around here. Oh, the door handle, yeah, that one's a tricky guy. All right. And then I am going to go ahead, I'm putting a door handle on mine. I don't want to overwork it because that way you do end up losing some highlights and dark shadows, and it's really hard once your whole truck is wet to bring those back out again because then sometimes they just blend in together and you have one yellow and you don't want that. So I'm calling mine good. I'm just going to throw a door handle on that. The door handle is the same color as that gray that we were doing, so just go ahead and mix some black and white together. Get a nice gray. And it is just a flat line right towards the top of the door. Just like that, we've got a door handle. That's the other thing, so not just our truck needs highlights, the tires need some highlights, and so does the hubcap or bumper. I always get them mixed up. So I'm just going to take straight white and throw some highlights in those areas using the smallest brush I can find. So I'm going to add a nice little highlight at the top of the bumper. It's just kind of like a tear shape. I'm going to throw some highlights at the top of my tires, kind of like an upside down smile. I'm not going to say frown because no negativity. and just throw some highlights up in there. So my tires are highlighted, and so is the hubcap. If you're feeling really fancy, you can throw a highlight on the door handle. I might touch up some more of this wood. And then another thing you can do is this window. It's kind of looking out. It's just white. That's boring. We're going to make it look like it's kind of more glass. So what I do is I take that light gray that I have mixed up, and I'm just going to do I might have green in my brush. I'm going to make sure I don't before I mess that up. So I'm taking this like light gray, and I'm just going to do a few like lines back and forth. They're a little crazy. If they get crazy, just take some white. You can kind of paint over them. Soften it up a little bit. I went a little crazy on my yellow. I have to bring that back. And I'm going to soften it up again. So yeah, if you're done with your truck, you can add highlights to the tires, to the bumper, at the door handle if you're feeling crazy, and then just kind of play with that window. Add some gray lines into it. Oh, I just keep getting messier. Let's suck some of that water out. My brush had too much water on it, so I got a little drippy. Just gonna play around with that window. So I almost kind of took those lines out, but that's okay. I wanted to redo them. Go a little bit softer. There. Okay. So, all right. I am going to move on to some more details. If you feel like you need more time with your truck, that is okay. Sometimes it's good to kind of take a break with that. And you can always go back and work in it again, as long as you just kind of re-wet the yellow a little bit before you blend. We're just going to pop some flowers on here. That's pretty fun. Again, we're just going to use the smallest brush. We're going to reintroduce the blue paint, which is fun. And we're going to throw some little flowers on there. And they're not too hard. They're pretty easy. We're making them pretty small. I'll give you kind of like a zoom in look on them. It's basically like you make little 5 petals. Just like that. Cute little flowers. And then you just take that like nice light yellow. I got some green in my brush. And you just throw a nice little dot in the middle, and you have a nice little flower. They're not too crazy detailed because they're pretty small and they're just chilling in the grass. So you can make any flowers you want. Like if you want to make them look like tulips, go for it. I like tulips. If you want to throw some huge like sunflowers in the background because you're feeling crazy, go for it. All right, so I'm just going to start picking out some areas where I want those flowers. I'm going to make a few pop out into the white area just so you can see them. Some of them I'm going to throw in the grass a little bit more so they're hidden. You can kind of choose what you like. Doesn't seem like anyone's saying I'm going too fast, so I'm just going to kind of keep going with these flowers. All right, throw some flowers over here. Throw some down here. And another thing you can do if you want a little bit more variety with your flowers, if you mix a little bit of white and a little bit of blue, you'll get a nice lighter blue, and then you can have some dark blue flowers and you can have some light blue flowers. Having a mixture of both will be pretty cool. Make some pop out a little bit more and some kind of hide a little bit more. Plus the lighter ones, they'll pop up a little bit better, especially if you're going in this like darker green. So I'm just going to pop them in different areas. Go back in some more dark blue. And some more here. Again, if you like flowers, we'll be doing a live sunflower painting tomorrow night. So if you wanted to tune in for that, because you're more of a flower person than a truck person, go for it. All right, well, no, I want more flowers. And you can put as many flowers on here as you like. I got a little bit of water there. And once you put all your flowers on there, go ahead and mix that light yellow and put a middle to all of them. So I'm mixing a light yellow again. Oh, sorry, almost hiccup. And I'll just take that and dab right in the middle. Another thing you can do is you can take the back of this brush instead of the brush part and just dip it right into the paint and just dollop it on there. Then you get like a perfect circle every single time. Oop. Just dot all those middles on there. And in the meantime, if you're quite caught up, we're going to be moving into what is in the back of the truck. So if you want, go ahead and take a pencil. You can sketch out the tools. I'm going to go ahead and put that rake in there. They're kind of at a tilt. So I'm just kind of sketch where they're going to be on there and where I'm going to put them. Just stick to shapes. Drawing the rake, just draw a line, draw a triangle, and then just draw like upside down L's. And you got a rake. So if you want, you can kind of sketch those guys out. Sometimes it helps to even sketch out where the vines are. So if you want, you can take a pencil and kind of like sketch them on there. Throw some little dollops. That way you kind of know where you're painting and where you're starting. Obviously, this is optional. I'm more of a person that just kind of like goes for it, but it does really help to have it sketched out beforehand sometimes. All right. And then just so you guys can kind of see that closer, what I do is I just kind of like draw kind of like a long S, a very long flat S, and then I just put a nice little dollop on there, and then I'll just kind of continue to put like little circles around. I know it's kind of hard, but yeah, just kind of like sketching that on there, just kind of like a nice vine vibe. And we are actually getting pretty close to the end, so let me know how your truck is going, if the blending worked out for you. All right. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty happy with painting a spring truck. I love Christmas time and I love our Christmas truck, but the cold weather isn't as exciting. Painting this means that it has finally become warm outside. All right, so haven't heard anyone say they need to catch up at all really, so I'm gonna go ahead and start painting in my vines. I'm gonna wait to do the tools to the end because they're more darker colors like black and silver and stuff, so I just like to keep my brush a little clean, and I'm gonna go in with the darker green. So first I'm starting with this darker green, and I'm just gonna do the filling vines. So like not really the ones that I sketched out. I'm gonna go more so like in the boards and put this part in there. So I'm just kind of dolloping. And these vines are really just like polka dots. They're not like brush work. They're not like going back and forth, anything like that. I'm basically just polka dotting them on there. And let's see if I can maybe zoom in for you guys. That might help a little. There. That way maybe you can see it a little bit easier. Oh, that's the side view. There you go. All right, so then you can see it a little bit closer. Like I said, I'm just polka dotting these guys on. Might throw some over here. And just like the truck and everything else, we start with like a darker color or a lighter color, and then we put highlights and lowlights on it. So just poking those guys on. All right, I'm gonna fill it in a little bit more down here. And I think I got enough of that darker green for now. I'm going to start on these like vines that go a little bit higher. I'm going to mix that light green that we used before. So I'm going to mix the yellow, the green, and the white again together to get more of a minty green. So again, green, yellow, and a whole lot of white. And that should make more of a minty, lighter green. And with that lighter green, I'm going to go ahead and fill in this part. And I know some of you guys, I'll zoom out here just to give you a little tip. When you're trying to be steady with these polka dots, sometimes your elbow, as you can see, I dip mine on the canvas a lot in the wet paint. Sometimes you'll like elbow your flowers. Another way you can kind of like prevent that is take a nice long brush and just kind of hold it with your other hand and then rest your wrist on top of that other brush, and that acts as a support so you can keep it kind of steady without putting your wrist on the wet canvas. So just taking a longer brush, holding it on top with your other hand and placing your wrist on top will help keep those brushes like steady and your vines looking good. So that's just a little tip. And just another friendly reminder, since some of you guys have bought new brushes, if you have any brushes laying out that aren't in the water and you're not using them, go ahead and plop them back in the water, because you want those brushes to stay nice and clean so you can paint with us again. So again, I'm just throwing that on there. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. Come back in. So I'm just filling in these vines. Again, I haven't put any highlights or lowlights on these part of the vines just yet. I'm just doing the base green. And then there's a nice vine that goes in the middle on top of the brown. And some pro tip for that, I'll bring it back. What we want to do is make sure the vine that's going to go on top of this brown, we want to make sure has like quite a bit of white in it. White kind of acts as an eraser almost, and it goes on top of most paint. So by mixing white with any color, it helps it paint over darker colors like black and brown. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of throw some dollops, just like little vine guys. And you can see that lighter color really helps me paint on top of the darker colors, especially when it's mixed with white. And you can take your time with these. I'm a little impatient, so you don't have to go as fast as I am. And then of course, once you get those base green on there, I'm going to go ahead and take some darker green, and I'm going to start to go a little bit darker highlights. That one went a little dark, but that's okay. It's glistening because it's wet. So I'm just making a few of those vines a little darker. And again, once you do the dark, you can go back and do the light. And just kind of keep working on those vines as much as you like. All right, I'm going to pop back in. All right, so I am about to paint the last detail on my painting. So the last detail I am doing is I am painting the tools on the back. Well, no, there's clouds. I lied. All right, so we have tools and clouds to go, so that's good. I'm actually going to double check with you guys if anyone wants to let me know how you're doing on the vines. I'm going to start on the tools, and then after I do the tools, we're going to go ahead and throw those clouds on there. I want everyone to kind of be on the same page when I do the clouds, just because that involves a new technique that we haven't really used yet. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and take some black. All right, and obviously the tool handles are quite dark and they're just a straight line that comes out. 2 lines that come out for those tools. And then the tools are that same gray that we used for the tires. So just mix a little bit of black, a little bit of white. I'm mixing some gray. And the tools are pretty small, so go ahead and make sure you don't have too much paint on your brush for this part. I'm just going to outline those tools. And just like the tires, go ahead and pop some highlights on them as well. So the shovel could use a highlight. Like bang, and then maybe throw some highlights where this rake is, put some white on there just to give it a little bit more dimension. See, I knew Nancy would catch the clouds. All right, and you can kind of see, I'll bring it a little closer so you can see I put a little bit of highlight on the shovel and the rake. So just a little bit of a detail goes a very long way. So, and as long as I'm not hearing that anyone is like, we're going to be using our big brush again, the Filbert dude. I don't know why he's called Filbert, but I think that's just the style of the brush. And I'm going to wet him down again, get him nice and clean. All right. Give you guys a second. So as we wait, I'm just going to start talking about the clouds. We're going to be using this Filbert brush, and the whole time we've been using brush strokes that go like back and forth or like up and down or doing like straight lines or dotting. But this brush stroke is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to take paint. I'm going to water it down a little bit, just a tad. Oh yeah. I can wait for the clouds. I'll do a second demo of them too, so. The clouds are just going to be more of like a swirly motion. So I'm going to be twisting, and I'm demoing in blue so you can see it. So instead of going like back and forth with brush strokes, you go in circles. And for those of you who are ready for the clouds and you're confident, go for it, or you can wait for me to do them. But if you take a plate, just go ahead and like practice that circle motion on your plate just to get used to it. It's going to react a little bit different on like a canvas compared to like a paper plate. But just get used to the motion, because you don't want to take too much paint. If you take a lot of paint on your brush and you start to do that like circle motion, you're going to end up with like big globs. When we do this cloud, we don't put too much paint on our brush, and we mix it a little bit with water. And what we do is just kind of like circle a little bit. So it's a little bit more wispy. I'm just making the paint dirty now. But I won't paint my clouds just yet. I'm going to let you guys kind of catch up a little bit. But if you wanted to kind of practice that circle motion on a plate or anything like that, go for it before we put it on the canvas. Our clouds are going to be white, not blue. So. And again, if you're feeling crazy and you want to add any more details or, ooh, I forgot one. I'm going to put a bumper in the front. So I'm just mixing that gray again, that nice light gray. And I'll just add a nice little circle in the front here. Because if you got a fronter in the back, you need one in the back too, in the front, whatever. Words. Okay. But since I have like brown back there and green back there, I might have to do a couple layers of this silver for it to build up. Actually, no, that went on pretty decent, but I want it to match the other bumper pretty well, so. Put another layer. Yeah, I can re-explain the leaves for you here. Just a second. All right, so let's see here. I have a Sharpie. I can draw it a little bit larger for you. Let's see. Wonder. Okay, so those leaves, especially if you're gonna like put them in with like a pencil before you did them, or you want to fix them up a little bit, they kind of follow along like an S curve like that, and then the first part of it is usually at the top. A lot of people like to start and then just go pretty condensed and stuff like that, so then when you're doing paint it gets kind of globby, but you want a very delicate tip to it, and then make sure you put enough space. So it's basically just a line with ovals symmetrically on each side except for the tip part. And then, of course, I'm going to explain the colors again for you as well. So it just kind of has like that kind of vibe to it. And then when you take your smaller brush, what I did was I started with darker green. So I took the small brush and I just did polka dots, kind of in that same fashion, kind of like this. So I just take polka dots of the dark green and put that darker green in there. And then once I had that darker green layer, I went ahead and I mixed that lighter green, which was the yellow, white, and green. And I just like to throw those like little highlights in there so they get a little bit brighter in some areas. And then the opposite of that vine was starting with lighter green. So you mostly had a light green base to it. And then you would start to add like darker green to it. Like that. So you have like a mixture of both kind of popping out of there. I know it can be kind of hard with this truck, especially like in the wood area. They get pretty claustrophobic and pretty close together really fast. So just when you start out with vines, make sure you start with like really small polka dots and give them some space, because you can always cluster them up, but you can't really tear them back apart when you have the paint. So I hope that re-explanation helped a little bit. I keep getting water on my canvas. All right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into the clouds. This is the last step, but that doesn't mean you have to stop painting. You can go ahead and find this video again on this page in the next few days or anything like that, or if you want to keep going with the details after I'm gone, go for it. I won't stop you. But what we want to do for the clouds is make sure you have a clean filbert brush, which is the big guy, and then you want a clean pile of white. So go ahead and grab some white from your cup so it's nice and fresh. So I have a nice clean pile of white. And the big key to this part is just make sure you're not going very thick with the paint, kind of like I showed you before. If you go really thick, it's going to look very thick like that. Go a little bit lighter with the paint. You do not need a lot of paint on your brush for this step, and that is major. So I'm going to take the white paint and I'm going to mix a little bit of water with it. I'm making it a little bit more soupier, almost like it feels like a watercolor if you paint it with those. And then I'm just going to start swirling. So kind of like go a little bit of a circle. And I am very light. This is a very light touch. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. And I'm just kind of swifting it down there. And once you get your first pass, you can kind of go back in and change them up a little bit. I'm just going to map out where mine are first, and then I'll go back and touch them up. So I'm going to swirl this guy in over here. And you can see that's very light. It's not very bright paint. It's because I mixed it with that water before I put it on there. Otherwise, it'd be very bright like that. So just to give you a show. But you can kind of like swirl them into each other so that the top of the cloud is brighter and the bottom part is a little bit more transparent. So you can kind of dab into them and paint out a little bit. I'm going to swirl another guy up here. And you can obviously take more time with your clouds. I don't want you guys to rush with those. But I'm just going to throw them on there. And one thing, if you feel like you maybe messed up a cloud a little bit too much, you can always go back in with the blue a little bit. Be careful. Water him down as well, almost like a watercolor again. And you can kind of like swift around underneath and dilute them a little bit, soften them up and stuff like that. So you can kind of go back and forth with those colors. So I'm adding more blue into my clouds just to give them like a darker underside and a lighter upper side. So going back and forth with the darker and lighter colors again. Just like what we were doing in the truck, all that good stuff. All right, and then just like she posted in the comments, I would love to see your trucks. So go ahead and take a picture of them. If you're painting along with other people, go ahead and take a group photo, and then you can post them to Creatively Uncorked Live. You can post them to our page. Anywhere we'll find them. But yes, I would love to see your finished products. And again, if you want, you can take a small brush. You can put a little signature in the corner. You could date the back of your canvas, anything like that to kind of mark your own painting. I'm just going to throw a quick PB in the bottom. I hate signing things. I don't like my handwriting or signature, but it's kind of nice to throw that on there. Did anyone want like a re-explanation of the clouds? I'm going to wait around to see if you guys need more assistance with that. But for the most part, this is the whole painting. A few more things. Again, if you enjoyed this, we do this 5 nights a week. Every night at 7, we go live on Creatively Uncorked Live. It's that private group. You can order art kits online. The art kits come with instructions. So even if you didn't want to like paint along to a live video, they do come with step-long instructions where you can follow along and go at your own pace as well. They tell you what paint you need to have, and it also comes with a pre-sketch canvas if you happen to like come across me on our Creatively Uncorked page. That is our usual page. So yeah, I haven't quite seen any comments about the clouds, but this video will be up for the next few days, so you can come back and check in, see how it started, finished, and all of that good stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for painting along with us. If you have any questions, let us know, and I would love to see your finished products on our page. So I'm going to say goodbye for the night. Enjoy the weather. It's supposed to be a great weekend, and I hope to see you guys again. Bye. Click the finish.